and we all are looking for authenticity and purity.
What are the characters that affected you growing up? Any connections to early science fiction memories?
I think Robbie the Robot, Forbidden Planet, that was fun. Above all, beyond anything else, is Flash Gordon. I remember my brother and I would go to the Chimes Theater in Berkeley, California, and pay 10 cents to see a cartoon and a feature, but preceded by Flash Gordon. And Flash Gordon loomed large. Flash and Dale Arden and Dr. Zarkov and Ming the Merciless. We just couldn't wait for the following week, because every week there was a cliffhanger. I remember one episode I loved that the Rock People, that was the first science fiction that was seared into my memory.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen other science fiction movies, but they've never hit me as strong. I think because I was in the age of wonder, which makes that which one sees so much more compelling, you know?
Right. I mean, there must be many moments when, as a director, you go back and look at the stuff of your youth and unpack it in ways that you totally didn't expect.
You know, it's funny, as a director right now, I see how science fiction movies are insanely cheesy, but as a kid, I was totally involved in that world, you know? There was an eye of wonder before, which is the kind of that wonderful thing that we lose, or we try and keep as much as we can. And then when I have a more discerning eye as a director, I can see, you know, all the stuff that's really going on, and how things are done, and the pace of it, and the structure of it, and things like that. If something is actually very, very good, I'm taken away by it anyway. But just because a $200 million movie has an amazing ditch, it doesn't mean the emotion has more value. So that can carry any time. And, you know, backyard movie or a $200 million movie, the emotion is still strong.
How do you think CG is doing with keeping that wonder in our movies? Where do you stand on that?
I'm for anything that supports the story in a pure way. What I'm not for is the CG for the sake of CG. I mean, there's some brilliant CG around that I don't know is CG, and that's what I like to see.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't bring my attention to itself, then it's great work.
Yeah. But in-camera effects are always going to be better.
If you can do them, I think I think they're always better, because first of all, if you're dealing with actors can actually physically deal with a character, as opposed to pretending a character's there and there's a blue screen or green screen behind him. So right away you get that spontaneity you couldn't, and that tactile feeling, and you can touch the character for real, as opposed to making it happen in CG.
Right.
Speaking of effects, you know, it's interesting. I did India in the Cupboard, which was kind of a fantasy thing, with the cupboard, you know, opening up, and this little Indian character, little bear, becoming alive and such. I could have done wild CG stuff, but I decided not to do any of that stuff at all. And, you know, I could have sparkled the cupboard and made it magic, and I didn't do any of that stuff because I felt that took away from the organic quality of what was really happening. And so some people said, why didn't you do more magic stuff? And so, in my opinion, the magical fantasy stuff is only good if it really enhances and doesn't impose on the story.
Right. Otherwise, it's like a ta-da.
Yeah, exactly.
So famously, you also directed, I think what could be classified as a sci-fi musical, Little Shop of Horrors, which also has incredible puppetry in it.
Yeah.
Can you talk about working with a giant puppet as a director instead of as a performer? How did your experience with puppetry make that go?
Well, Lyle Conway, who was nominated for the Academy Award for that, Lyle is the one who's really in charge of, and his people in charge of the plant at various sizes. It took about a year of prep before we shot the movie in London. What happened with the plant was everything was fine.